Hi guys, welcome to my movie fan channel. My name's Tyler. Today's Review the MCU review is going to be for Captain Marvel. We are chugging along through the MCU reviews every Monday. We're almost caught up to the most current one, which is Spider-Man Far From Home, and we're waiting Black Widow and all the Disney Plus shows. Who knows when that'll be with all the pandemic stuff going on. But if you guys are new to the channel, make sure you give me a thumbs up down below, hit the like button, and share this video around to all your friends and family on Facebook, Twitter, all different social medias. That way it spreads the word of the channel out there, gets more people talking movies with us. And also hit the little subscribe button down below, hit the notification bell, that way you get alerts when I post a new video. I actually have a video that shows you, like a tutorial, how to subscribe to the channel. So if you guys are having trouble making like a Gmail account or something, that video can hook you up. It's like 2 minutes long. It'll show you how to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified for future videos. So Captain Marvel has a great cast, including Brie Larson as the title character, Ben Mendelsohn, Sam Jackson is Nick Fury in this movie, Jude Law, a ton of other people, huge cast. And this movie takes place in the 90s, which is cool because we get a lot of subtle and not so subtle references to the 90s, like Blockbuster, bunch of other things, her 9 Inch Nails shirt. I'm a 90s kid, so that got me right away. This movie, kind of the backdrop to it is the Kree-Skrull conflict. When we get to see their little skirmishes that they have, the little fights between them, that's really cool. And we get to know some of the backstory. And if you're familiar with the comics, which I am not the biggest superhero comic guy, Marvel or DC, I get into the Star Wars comics, but growing up, I was just watching all the animated shows and stuff. I grew up during a good time period for that. Wasn't super in-depth in the comics, but even I know that the Skrulls are normally the bad guys. And in this movie, the Skrulls are portrayed as the bad guys in the beginning, and then we find out that they're kind of sympathetic, like refugees, as opposed to the Kree, who are kind of imperialistic, like warriors that are trying to conquer and hold the Skrulls down. But I thought that the Skrulls being shapeshifters was really cool. It presented some good opportunities for the MCU in one of the movies that we've never seen before to do some exciting things with this. It was a good opportunity for jokes and humor, and I think that they took advantage of that. And it's also a good setup for like the future, what they could do with these people, especially if they just integrate into society like it seems like they did at the end of Captain Marvel. But I think they utilized it to the best of their ability. They had people masquerading as characters that we knew, other people being suspicious that other people were Skrulls, like, hey, he might be a Skrull. I like when Brie Larson punches the old lady disguises a Skrull on the train, and she gives no indication that that's a Skrull, but she just knocks out this old lady, and you're like, oh man, you knew it was a Skrull, but you're like, that's funny. That same train sequence has Stan Lee's little cameo, and he's reading the script for Mallrats, which is the Kevin Smith movie he was in, which is a cool little Easter egg. I just got into all the Kevin Smith movies on my own before I started the channel early on in the summer, and I went on a little marathon, and I watched Mallrats, and I was like, oh my god, Stan Lee, and I had no idea he was in there. And then when Captain Marvel came out, I was like, oh, that's kind of like cool, you know, Stan Lee's in there, but I didn't see Mallrats, so I didn't know he was in that. And speaking of comedy bit, they teased Nick Fury losing his eye a couple times throughout this movie, which was great. They did a good job with that, and it takes place during the 90s, so he has both eyes, and you're like, how is he going to lose it? And there's like something that happens, and he's like, oh, like my eye, and he reveals that it's not gone yet. And then they do it again, and then they do it again. How he eventually loses it, I wasn't the biggest fan of. I didn't like the Flurgan thing, the cat, that whole gag. I don't know, it didn't really land with me. I liked that the cat was named Goose, like the pilot from Top Gun. So I'm gonna get into a big rant here. You guys are gonna laugh at me. This always bugs me about this movie. I've seen this movie like 3 or 4 times now, not as much as I've seen some other MCU movies. I don't think it has the same rewatchability, but especially because every time I see it, I get more and more infuriated with something that happens. So at the 41-minute mark, Sam Jackson shows up in the bar, and to prove to him that she's not a Skrull, Captain Marvel shoots this like photon beam into the jukebox, and he's like, okay, and she's like, yeah, Skrull can't do that. And he's like, all right, so I guess you can shoot photon beams, right? You would think. Not even 5 minutes later, they have that scene where they go to the SHIELD base or the army base or whatever it is, and they are trapped in this room, and he uses tape on the door with the fingerprint to get out, and Captain Marvel just sits back and watches him. So she's laughing at him like, dude, I could shoot my way out of here, right? And it's kind of like amusing. And then they run down the hallway. There's a second door that's like the same kind of door, and he's like, oh, let me get my tape out, whatever, and she just shoots it and opens it. So there's nothing wrong with that up to this point, because she is just kind of laughing at him like whatever, and she even says that. She's like, I just, it was amusing to watch you do whatever. And what he says, though, is you let me play with tape this whole time when you could have did that? And he says it in a way that is like ignorant to the fact that she can shoot this laser from her hands. But he knew that because 5 minutes before, they showed him that. He didn't say, hey, if you shoot that, it'll be too loud and it'll alert the guards. Or, hey, if you shoot that, they'll know that we got out of the room and that's where we went because the door was shot open. Like, let's not leave any trace of where we went. He said it like, I didn't know you could do that. And maybe that's just an editing mistake or a thing that they had to do for editing purposes that they just sacrificed, that it didn't make sense within the story. But I can't get over it, man. It's a little detail. I gotta just get over it, because otherwise this movie's alright. It's not the best MCU movie, but I let that bother me, and I'm like, oh my god, that is so annoying. It's just a little thing. It sticks out. I can't get past it. I don't know why it makes me so mad. It just does. I think it's worse that it's 5 minutes apart from when you see that she can do it, and she was showing Nick Fury specifically that she could do it when we first see it. So it's like, what the hell is going on? Like, how did that happen? It's just weird, because this movie will do really smart things where, like, Nick Fury's like, yeah, everybody just calls me Fury. My mother will call me Fury. My kids will call me Fury if I ever have them. And that's how he knows Ben Mendelsohn, his boss, is a Skrull, because he calls him Nicholas or Nick or whatever he calls him. He doesn't call him Fury. So he's like, this guy's a Skrull. So he's like onto him because of that. So that's really smart. They give a little like lead in, they drop that there, and then it comes back into play later. And they don't do it super heavy handed. I mean, a little bit, but Sam Jackson's so good at playing it off that they could lean on him more to deliver that. That was good, but then they do other things like he didn't know that she could shoot the door open. I don't know, but speaking of Sam Jackson, the dude does not age at all, so they kind of aged him down. They aged him and Agent Coulson down, who also has like a little minor role in this, and they look cool. I mean, they gave Coulson just like hair and had very little like de-aging to do, and then Sam Jackson has looked the same for 30 years. Like I said before, Ronan the Accuser is in this, and Jaimon Hansu is also reprising his character from Guardians of the Galaxy, which this takes place in the 90s, so it's beforehand, but it's cool to see him back in there. He's an awesome actor, so it's just another great person to add to this cast, even though he's just popping in and out in the back. He's just another body that gets thrown around by Captain Marvel. But anyway, Jude Law carries himself as like a badass in this. He looks super friggin' cool in his like blue Kree suit. He's just a great actor. So he elevated the material that he got. He wasn't given a lot to work with. He was just kind of Captain Marvel's mentor that ended up being a bad guy in the end, because the Krees are just bad guys and they're working with Ronan the Accuser, which is cool. He got a cameo in this also. Annette Bening brought a lot of weight to the role that she played also. Although, like Jude Law, it's just because she's such a high caliber actress that she really made more of what she had to do than there really was, because she has a way about her that you're just like drawn to her and paying attention to everything in that scene. She had little intricacies that made those scenes better than they really were, because this movie just kind of like, it had a lot of dumping scenes where they just dumped a bunch of information on it, but it had a lot of action fight scenes too, so it redeems for shortcomings in other ways. So the movie like evens itself out. My favorite character, I think, is Talos, which is the character played by Ben Mendelsohn. He's a Skrull, and he's masquerading as like Nick Fury's boss, the head of S.H.I.E.L.D., and he's really working to bring his family back and make sure that they're safe. They escape like Kree persecution or attack or whatever, because they're coming for all the Skrulls, so they're kind of refugees. Ben Mendelsohn really got the most for his money with this role. He got to play a alien shapeshifter. He was doing a couple different characters where like his voice would be over like somebody else. He would get to walk around as himself, as we know him as like the smug bad guy, like he was in Krennic and Rogue One and Ready Player One and all these movies that we love to hate him in. Then he got to play like an alien with makeup on, and then he was bad, and then he was good, and he got to do some of the humor even when he was a bad guy. Nick Fury also got a lot of funny lines. He was kind of the second most prominent character, I think. All the comedy really went to him a lot of the times, and because Brie Larson would just have like a stale kind of sarcastic thing about her. When they would lob jokes up for Sam Jackson, he would hit him out of the park every time. And Brie Larson was good as Captain Marvel. She just played it up all snarky, and for the 90s that works. People had an attitude, an edge, a grungy kind of angst. But combined with the fact that she didn't know who she was as a person and was like struggling to remember and remembering things throughout, and they'd have to like do the trope of going back and showing you and pulling things out of her mind, and nothing for me to cling to, like to see myself in the character. And then they made her overpowered. So when people don't like this movie, I understand why. I totally understand why. I'm kind of in the same boat with you. I think there's people that don't like Brie Larson, which, I mean, is your own personal thing, whatever. You may not like some of the things she says or what she stands up for or how she carries herself or what she supports, and that's all fine and good, but I think she's a good actress. I think that's undeniable with some of the movies she's been in. You might disagree for this movie. I don't know much about Captain Marvel as a character going into this. I had no idea, so I don't know if she did the character justice. I'm sure there's other actresses that could have did it better, but there's other actresses that could have been worse too, because Brie Larson's an awesome actress. So I gave her a shot. I thought the movie was okay. I think that's a mistake that they introduced Captain Marvel at this point, because look what she did at the end when she was destroying all these ships, and then you're like, she's going to come in an Endgame and just kill Thanos by herself. And she put up a good fight against him, but she like destroyed his whole army by herself. She's crashing through ships and stuff. And yeah, Thor can do it too, but we've seen Thor earn that. And it's like the Rey situation in Star Wars where people are like, she didn't earn it. I don't want to get into that. But it's not because she's a girl. And there's people that think that, and those people shouldn't be voicing that opinion. They shouldn't think that anyway. You can't control the way people think, but they should be made to know that that's wrong and not be putting that out there. It's just so stupid. It's not because she's a girl. It's just because, like, where was this character before? And they explain it in this movie, but then it's like that kind of steals the thunder away from Thunder again with Thor. It kind of steals the thunder away from all these characters that they set up in Endgame when there's going to be 100 friggin' superhero characters running at Thanos to fight him. Why is this lady that showed up, at the end of the game, Bobby Boucher shows up and the Mung Dogs go to the Super Bowl? Why does this lady show up with like 2 minutes left to go in the fourth quarter and she's the MVP all of a sudden? It kind of sucks. It's like you wanted to see all these characters that you know and love have their closure in the story, and they did that. It was just kind of like, I don't know, she was way too strong to be like not present all this time, and it's just like a convenient thing that she was off fighting somewhere else and not defending Earth, because Fury's like, yeah, with her gone, now we need to start the Avengers because our one-man army basically isn't here, and that's what she is. She's a one-man army. It's like, holy shit, like, who are they gonna fight now that can fight that lady and then still have to fight Spider-Man and whoever? Nobody can do that. So who's really gonna put up a fight against them? They gotta like dance around it now. They gotta have somebody that isn't physically powerful, but maybe Kang the Conqueror is just running through time, and then Captain Marvel can't do shit about it, and it's gotta be Wanda and Vision and Doctor Strange that fight her. I don't like when they render people useless, and I'm afraid that her being so strong, and then you got Thor is even so strong, that it kind of renders these people useless. If you're a Dragon Ball Z fan, you know that in Dragon Ball Z, Goku and Vegeta, maybe Gohan, people like to say, but they even like make him like, oh, I gotta study, and he's carrying his books. They make it so that only two people can do anything. And then Piccolo and everybody are like so weak now that every threat is too strong for them, and if they get involved, they'll get killed. And it just sucks that Captain Marvel would come in and save the day and be that strong. It's a little bit dangerous, too, I think, for their future storytelling. So, I don't know. I think maybe they should tone her back a little bit. I mean, Hulk got neutered in the MCU. Hulk kind of sucks. I mean, he doesn't suck, but he's not what he is or what he could be. You know what I mean? I don't know. I'm not super down on this movie. I like this movie a lot. It does have significant problems too, and it might not be as bad as some of the worst MCU movies, but I think it's towards the bottom for me. It's just rewatchability, everything. I like the soundtrack that it has. I like a lot of the humor that came out of it. I think it was directed really good. It fit within the MCU, and it had great actors and some good portrayals, and it introduced some good characters, some future MCU threads with like the post-credit scenes that we got and stuff. Setting up Endgame and where that would lead for the overall franchise. But I think that some of the problems really hamper it down for me, and it's not one of my favorites. I do recommend that you watch it. It is important for Endgame, so you're not like, who the fuck is that lady flying through 80 million spaceships by herself, like taking these people out? It's not essential. You don't have to watch it to know what's going on. It'll just be this super powerful woman that's taking out half the army by herself. So if you're cool with that, you're cool with that. But I do like this movie. It is worth watching. There's some good entertainment in there, but it's not the best. I feel like I repeated that 800 times. And that's my review for Captain Marvel, guys. If you guys like the video, like I said in the beginning, like, subscribe, and hit the little notification bell, and share us around to social medias. But I will see you guys in the next video.